Hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today is Thursday, February 22nd, 2022. This is live stream 1024. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and I'll usually pontificate on the state of our hobby in some respect. But we're not invested in some heavy mental lifting or anything like that, or mental heavy lifting. I guess that's what I should say. Obviously enough, right? No, we are not engaged in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live show, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. Yet another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, comment, maybe there's a topic you'd like to discuss after the news, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Madman. Yes, our good friend, the Madman, is with us. He also happens to be one of our chat moderators. Kevin King, Kabuki Kid is here. That's right. Double K's in the house. Matthew Blackwell, Roger Perdome, Gerlin, and don't we have one more? I thought, a few more popped in. Coco B and Chris Lundgren. So chat is off and rocking and rolling already. So welcome aboard, everybody. Let's jump on into the news, because currently up on Kickstarter from our friends over at Pinnacle Entertainment Group is the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Science Fiction Companion. Say that 5 times fast. I've got the scoop. The science fiction genre is massive, like space itself. It encompasses everything from dystopian tales of grim near future to star-hopping tales of far-flung galactic adventure. The Savage World Science Fiction Companion allows you to emulate any sci-fi world from games, books, movies, and television, or those of your own creation. It includes fast, furious, fun rules for over a dozen new ancestries, starships and space travel, air, land, and sea vehicles, giant warwalkers, cyberware, robots, exploration gear, weapons, armor, transhumanism, net running, arcade backgrounds, and setting rules to help you run everything from space opera to the hardest of science fiction. And like all the companions, it contains a vast menagerie of strange and alien creatures to fight or befriend. It's going to be one of those nights. Including Xenos, evil empires, and fellow travelers. What, communists in space? This 200-page hardcover book updates the original science fiction companion to be completely compatible with the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. Here's what you'll find inside. New character ancestries, options, edges, and hindrances for everything from star-spanning humans to most any alien creature you can imagine. Customizable and pre-made suits of power armor, starships, and vehicles of all sorts. You can make anything from the Mercury capsule to world-wrecking behemoths. Pages of new and updated gear to help you run the dystopian streets or exotic planets, and a massive arsenal of weapons and armor. An all-new event-based system for quickly and easily running chases, dogfights, or vehicular shootouts. There are narrative outpost rules, the science fiction take on the narrative system first introduced in the Superpowers Companion. Build a unique base for your party in the heart of a dying sun, the drifting ruins of a space hulk, or the penthouse of a crowded industrial city. There are new setting rules for everything from net running to starship combat to transhumanism, and a whole new simplified system for handling massive vehicular weapons and vehicular armor, which is called heavy metal. Called it heavy metal. I don't know. Why am I singing now? Actually, not even really singing. The past couple of shows, just something pops up and it reminds me of something weird, a song. There's also brand new arcane backgrounds, psionic abilities, and even psychically powered weapons. There's a huge bestiary of scoundrels, xenos, monsters, and evil empires to challenge, as well as dozens of strange and alien artifacts to discover. Sadly enough, there is no video. For this Kickstarter, I was kind of surprised. But this project did fund within its first few moments and is actually nearing the $200,000 mark. You can reserve a copy of the hardcover with PDF and other goodies, including, I do believe, an adventure supplement, which will be in PDF. You can get all of that for a $60 pledge, or you can just score the PDFs instead for a $30 pledge through March 21st. So yes, this does have quite a ways to go. Delivery is expected in March of next year, and yes, that even includes the PDFs. Boom. Would have liked to have seen it a little earlier than that, at least in PDF. Oh, well. So let's see. I'm going to make a prediction that this Kickstarter was probably no more than 2 hours old when the madman pledged his support. Taking a wild guess, because the madman is our resident Savage Worlds expert. Yes. Speaking of chat moderators, Flaming Heron's popped on in. He is with us, and I would also take a guess that the lovely and talented Sarah D is possibly lurking in the shadows, as well as another of our chat moderators. So we may have a trio of chat moderators wielding their band hammers. Yes, from across the nation, across the globe, actually, now that I think about it, because yes, Flaming Heron does not reside here in the United States. He's one of those foreign types, you know. Sweet. Very nice. Very, very nice. I do have some Savage Worlds reviews coming. Not directly, but they are on the horizon. Kabuki Kid says, cue Sammy Hagar. Yes, that was Sammy Hagar's song, Heavy Metal. In fact, I think that may have been maybe it wasn't my first exposure to Sammy Hagar. because Sammy Hagar played Chicago Fest, which was the precursor to Taste of Chicago, downtown Chicago on the lakefront. And I saw him in concert, and I was probably 12 would be my guess. So this heavy metal would not have been my first exposure to him, because I think heavy metal came out in 81, 82-ish, because I know I was in high school. And I remember my dad dropped me off at the theater, because at that point in time, I think from the time I was about 13 years old, I could get into R-rated movies because I just looked older, and I was tall. When I was 13, I was probably about 5'10". So kind of wild. I remember that movie blew my mind. Well, not all of it, but some of it. Some of it did. You know, interestingly enough, I actually have a couple of news pieces regarding Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. That's right. Because entering its final week on Kickstarter for Doghouse Rules is Sidewinder Recoiled for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. Here's what I know. Sidewinder Recoiled for Savage Worlds is a traditional Western role-playing game. Create fearsome gunslingers, low-down rustlers, or headstrong bounty hunters, just to name a few of the 20 featured archetypes, and test your mettle on the frontier. Sidewinder Recoiled for Savage Worlds is intended as a historical game, with this caveat. Facts should never get in the way of a good story. Maintaining a balance between historical accuracy and cinematic Western action is actually the primary goal of this game. It's called Savage Sidewinder for short. Its roots reach back to Doghouse Rules. Any award-winning Sidewinder Recoiled, which was published in 2004. This 2024 version is reimagined for play with the Savage Worlds game system in celebration of Doghouse Rules' 20th anniversary. So saddle up, buckle on your holster belt, and pull your hat down low. You're fixing to ride into the Wild West of Savage Sidewinder. Now, there is a short video. It's a little more than a minute and a half. So let's take a peek. The project to bring Sidewinder Recoiled for Savage Worlds to the masses is fully funded. You can reserve a copy of the core book, GM screen, and all stretch goals, which also includes a print-on-demand at cost option for a $30 pledge. You can reserve just the PDF alone for a $19 pledge through February 29th. Expected delivery on the digital files is this December. And of course, if you're doing a print on demand, you will do that through Drive-Thru RPG. As you saw in the video, there is a quick start. Clocks in at 47 pages. It is available absolutely free. So you can go and visit the Kickstarter page to get that. I will also have a link to it when this news piece pops up as an article on thegaminggang.com tomorrow morning. This looks pretty interesting. And I'll be the first to admit, I like historic Western role-playing games. I have a very soft spot for Boot Hill. In fact, I've told the story before about Elliot and Scott and Tim and I went to some game day. I want to say, for some reason, I want to say it was like Arlington Heights or Mount Prospect, a suburb outside Chicago. In fact, Scott's mom dropped us off. And we played in a game of Boot Hill. And the gentleman who ran it was probably in his 50s. And he had all this additional content that he had created for Boot Hill, and he had actually tried to pitch it to TSR, and they were not interested. But he ran an adventure that was based on the movie Chisholm. Mind out of the gutter, I said Chisholm. I know how some of you think out there, I tell you. And it was a blast. And funny enough, I've mentioned this all the time. My best friend Elliot's memory is not great. It's very selective. He still remembers that. He still remembers that game. And we were freshmen, well, I believe, once again, we're talking over 40 years ago. So fingers crossed that I've actually got the details correct. But it was sponsored by a hobby shop called the Squadron Shop. Yes. Very nice. Very nice. Flaming Heron says, mine out of the gutter. Why do you think it was there? So I know how some of you folks operate. I understand. Don't get all high and mighty on me. Travis Williams has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Travis. Thanks for popping on in. So this looks very cool. This looks very, very interesting. And funny enough, I had actually heard of Doghouse Rules before. You know what? I think I have the web address incorrect that you're looking at. It should be an S. So I believe it should be Doghouse Rules, plural.net. But they've got a variety of gaming releases out there. So I was kind of like, I was like, I've seen some of these before. I haven't shared news pieces, and obviously enough, I haven't done reviews or had an opportunity to share first looks or anything like that. But I was like, wow, I've seen this company before. Matthew Blackwell says, Shootin' Iron. It's an Old West game that looks quite good. There was another that was pretty popular for a while when it first came out, and then the buzz kind of faded on it, and that would be Aces and Eights. Not a game that I had an opportunity to really dive on into. In fact, I don't think I even have a traditional Old West game. Yes, I do have Deadlands, the box set for Deadlands. I've got the companion. You've seen me review them. But I don't have a straight-up historical role-playing game for the West. It's pretty wild. I'm kind of surprised. What are you going to do? Just stand there and bleed? I'll be your Huckleberry Finn. W. Forge is with us, as is Lord Cost 2000. And Kevin R. Smith is also swinging on by this Thursday evening. Welcome to you all. Looks like we've got a nice chat rocking and rolling. So Matthew Constantine says, I've kicked around trying to run a spaghetti Western style game for a while. Heightened reality, general weirdness, and arch characters. Spaghetti Western is interesting because from my experience, everyone has a different definition of spaghetti Western. So, kind of weird. You know, interestingly enough, too, is Broncolonia is like spaghetti fantasy, and it's really, really fun. It's very, very interesting. Have not played it, have not run it, but it is a fun read. I can tell you that much. All right, moving right along. You may have noticed it is all tabletop role-playing games tonight. Yes. Legendary Games has teamed with Bundle of Holding to provide you with a money-saving offer on the Legendary Ultimate 5e series. I've got the dates on the deal. Adventure. We've resurrected our June 2020 Legendary Ultimate 5e bundle featuring the Legendary Games Ultimate Rulership Tabletop Role-Playing Game supplements for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and compatible systems. These 5e expansions let your player character leave the dungeon and found or conquer their own kingdom. Tame the wilderness to establish new cities and fill them with monuments to your realm's glory. Engage in diplomacy, trade, espionage, and everything a ruler must manage to keep a nation prosperous and happy. Construct towering fortresses, both magical and mundane. Navigate the hazards of sea battles and court intrigues. Build relationships that last a lifetime. For just $9.95, you'll get all 4 titles in this revived offers starter collection as DRM-free PDFs, including Kingdoms, plus its free domain, military, and settlement record sheets, along with the Major Kingdoms expansion, Ultimate Rulership, Ultimate Commander, and Ultimate Strongholds. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $20.43, you'll level up and also get this Revival's entire bonus collection, with 5 more titles worth an additional $45, including Ultimate Battle, Ultimate War, Ultimate Ships, Ultimate Factions, and Ultimate Relationships. These savings will run through March 13th. I am not familiar with this series of books at all. I'm not overly familiar with Legendary Games either, to be very honest. But this is a brand new bundle of holding, just rocked out. I think they launched it today, and seems kind of cool. So if you are missing out on domain play in your 5e D&D adventures and campaigns, or anything that's based on the 5e mechanics, fantasy-wise, this might be a bundle you want to get your hands on. Death Angel Shadow is with us tonight. I do believe might be a first-time visit for Death Angel Shadow, so welcome aboard. So Death Angel Shadow says, I wish the YouTube app would add intelligent ampersand selection. When I'm watching on the big screen, I use my phone for chat. Yeah, it is kind of weird how they've got, if you're watching on TV, it's kind of tough to engage in the chat, things like that. Flaming Heron says, I was going to say, this must be a brand spanking new bundle. It is. It is. So I have to admit, I did not notice if the madman had answered as far as when he backed that Savage Worlds Adventure Edition Science Fiction Companion. So I think it flashed on past. I am curious if it took longer than 2 hours for the madman to jump on board. Alrighty. Oh, Gerlin says they missed Domain Place so much they went back to running BECMI. Oh, that's pretty wild. Oh, Flaming Heron says it was an hour, is what the madman said. Thank you for cluing me in on that. You know, when I'm sharing these news pieces and that, a lot of stuff flies by in chat, so I do apologize. So Chris Lundgren says, I hate how ads just randomly on my PC pop up right as we are in chat and miss things at times. You know, it's not really set for you to have advertisements popping up during the live stream. I'll have to take a look because, funny enough, I do have it where it uses, you know, AI, yeah, right, wink, wink, nudge, nudge AI, to insert ads into the finished stream once it is processed. And that's relatively useless. So a lot of times I'll take a peek the next day because that's the only point that I can add that little end screen, because I'm not going to do a new end screen for every show. I'm not going to render video for that little portion at the end, which I wouldn't have any control over anyway, because YouTube adds those videos on top. I get to choose them. But a lot of times I go in the morning to go do that, and there's no ads. So I have to put the ads in. So yeah, so it shouldn't be like interrupting the stream, I don't think. Oh, so Death Angel Shadow says they were on the other night, but they were using their Jeff N4 pod username. Okay, there you go. No problem. Cool. Well, welcome back then. Travis Williams says they get pop-up ads during the live stream. Okay. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. Yeah, Kevin King says they get ads. Coco B says they get ads. Flaming Heron said they had an ad pop up during the intermission break. Funny enough, that is one of the spots that the YouTube AI usually does try to insert something. It's usually in the wrong spot, but it is during the brief intermission. And then I always have to move that ad to that right before it goes. And now on with the show. If you watch after the fact, you know what I'm talking about. Kabuki Kid says, I dislike the ads that show up at the top of chat and push everything down. Makes chatting and watching the video on their laptop awkward. Cuts off the top of the video for them. Yeah, I'm not. Got to remember, I just popped the chat out. And so I don't know what's going on the YouTube website. I am taking a look at my preview through OBS Studios, and I popped chat out. So I don't have any ad or anything like that in chat. It is just a chat window that you might consider doing the same, because I think you might be able to do the same thing. It just popped that out. Alrighty, moving right along. The Diesel Punk science fiction role-playing game Tomorrow City is out in print and PDF. Here's the latest from Osprey Games. A Diesel Punk role-playing game of action, mystery, and mad science. Tomorrow City was one of the cities of the future, built to usher in a new age of prosperity, seizing upon scientific achievements at the dawn of the 20th century. Then came the war. Radium-powered soldiers assembled, diesel-fueled nightmares rolled off production lines, city fought city, and the world burned in atomic fire. We survived, barely. Tomorrow City still stands, an oil-stained beacon of hope, part refuge, part asylum. Beset by dangers from both within and without, a secret war now rages on its streets. Diesel-born monstrosities stalk the alleyways. Air pirates strike from the wastelands. Mad scientists continue their dark work. Occultists manipulate the city's strange geometry. And secret societies plot in the shadows. Some reason got a little frog in my throat there for that first part of the news portion there. Tomorrow City is a role-playing game of dark science and diesel punk action. Swift and simple character creation and an easy-to-learn dice pool system places the emphasis on unique personalities and the momentum of the plot. Join the underground and fight the crime and corruption at the heart of the city. Sell your diesel punk tech, occult knowledge, and sheer grit as troubleshooters for mysterious paymasters. Hunt down spies, saboteurs, and science run amok as weary sky rangers, fringe scientists, and radium-powered veterans. You might be all that stands between a better tomorrow and no tomorrow at all. The 224-page hardcover does carry an MSRP of $35. It is available now. You can grab just the PDF alone, though, over at Drive-Thru RPG for $24.50. This looks good. This does look good. Don't believe we're going to get to see it. Osprey Games has become very hit or miss as far as review copies. But this looks pretty interesting. But I always point this out with many of the Osprey Games role-playing games and a lot of their miniatures games. I have no idea what kind of support this is going to get. But I do like the look of it. Could be pretty cool. And, it's diesel punk. Tessie Trekkie has joined us saying, Tomorrow City, Amazon Australia, where is my book? Damn you, Amazon Australia. This does look pretty cool. Very, very interesting. On to our last news piece. Something else that's also available in print and PDF is Rust and Redemption for the Cypher system. Here's the skinny from Monte Cook Games. The world is in ruins. Now what? Barren, crater-pocked wastelands roamed by biker gangs and giant scorpions. Crumbling cities that are lush, overgrown gardens by day and haunts of the undead by night. Dark ruins patrolled by conquering aliens or mechanical minions of the AI overlord. Whatever your apocalypse, Rust and Redemption is your tool for building it into a vivid, compelling Cypher system campaign. Explore the full breadth of the genre with a deep dive into the many ends our civilization might face, from zombies to climate collapse to supernatural invasion. The tropes and themes of the genre and adventure ideas, set pieces, and creatures. Special rules cover scrounging for food and ammunition, kit-bashing devices from scavenged technology, dealing with radiation exposure and mutagens, and other topics unique to this compelling genre. Inside this book, you're going to find a full exploration of the post-apocalyptic genre, examining the many possible whens, wheres, and hows your world ended, themes of survival, despair, and hope, practical campaign building advice and set pieces and plot ideas, loads of character options, including new character foci, descriptors, and abilities, special rules for scavenging, repairing, exposure, mutations, and more, plus apocalyptic artifacts and ciphers. Use a scavenger subtle cipher to find just the item you need to survive. There are GM resources exploring the effects of nuclear winter, the dangers of radiation, and the shelf life of common goods. Twinkies will last forever, and you'll be sharing them with the cockroaches. Creatures such as the terrifying radioactive bear and the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, plus radioactive craters, voracious nanobots, and loads of other end-of-the-world threats. There is a complete campaign setting, the Radio Quiet Zone, plus multiple adventures and cipher shorts. Experience the apocalypse itself in Safe Zone, a perfect adventure for launching your campaign. Rust and Redemption is a setting and supplement for the Cipher system, so it does require the Cipher system rulebook in order to play. This 224-page hardcover, that's kind of interesting because Tomorrow City is also exactly 224 pages, at least according to Drive-Thru RPG. This hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. Currently, you can grab the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $18.99. This sounds very interesting. Very, very interesting because it seems as if this is aimed more like a toolbox as opposed to, oh, well, here you go. This is the setting. Jump on in. But I will mention, this does not strike me as probably being very friendly to, say, like a Gonzo style of post-apocalyptic role-playing game a la later editions of Gamma World. It seems like this is aiming more towards a realistic kind of approach, even though, yes, you are looking at a dog carrying a sniper rifle. So that could be that realistic, but still. Yes. Descendant Droog is joining us in chat. Welcome to you. So, just said they just got home from work in time for part of the show. All right, well, hey, kicking back on a Thursday night. Kevin King says they ordered a Dungeon Crawl Classics module via eBay from Australia. It's been shipping for several weeks. Hopefully it's not going through the Red Sea. Ouch. Yeah, it could be going around Africa, as Kabuki Kid had pointed out. Fleming Red says, realistic, ? You know what I mean. Not overly gonzo. We're not talking Mutant Crawl Classics here. Gerlin says, Cipher System is a solid game. You know, this is another company I wish I could get on board with. Do some reviews of stuff, because I did review the first edition of Cipher System in PDF when it came out. And funny enough, Monte Cook Games reached out to me to do the review. I had reviewed the first edition of Numenera when that came out. And I mean, I've given these things positive reviews. I didn't say, it's crap, don't buy it. I just have to reach out. That's really it. And I've said it before. I'm not overly comfortable contacting companies asking for review copies. To me, it's just weird. I feel weird doing it. That it's sort of like, well, you like my post, you retweet stuff. You should probably reach out to me, you know? Anyway, and I interviewed Monte Cook. This is a few years back. It was when they were going to kickstart Invisible Sun, if I remember correctly. Sweet. Very nice. That is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up to help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Oh, how refreshing was that pause? I know, I'm not drinking. That's why I rephrased that. Don't want anybody coming after me. You're treading on our copyright. Anyway, thank you to all of you out there who use the banner ads and or stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang. It is most certainly appreciated. Thank you very kindly. Garen says they used a lot of Monty's stuff during 3.5. Book of Roguish Luck, Book of Experimental Might, lots of Tolis. I've heard good things about that. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but I've heard good things about that setting. I know they did a Kickstarter to bring that to Cypher System or Numenera. It's kind of Numenera, Cypher System, kind of interchangeable. Cypher System is the mechanics of Numenera. Jack Hanks has joined us. Good to see you, Jack. So the dispatch is going to continue. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
Visit our snack bar and treat yourself to some delicious Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches. Cook the Castleberry way, slowly over open pits of glowing charcoal, then seasoned with a sauce that's zesty, yet delightfully mild to please the entire family. Also at the snack bar, you'll find popcorn and soft drinks and candy and French fries to go with your Castleberry's barbecue sandwiches. There's plenty of time before the movie starts, so visit our snack bar right now for Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches.
Who is the ale man? Who can he be?
Famous sail manufacturer, company president, ale man. A man with a thirst for a manlier brew. Day is done, the race is won. Now hear this, all hands on deck for enjoyment. And that could only mean ale, Ballantine ale. Ballantine, the ale man's ale. Bolder, keener, more to the point. The choice of 3 out of 4 ale men among all national brands. Let Ballantine make an ale man out of you.
Who is the ale man? He could be you, a man with a thirst for a manlier brew. 3 out of 4 men every time choose the bolder, keener tasting ale. Ballantine.
Have some Wilkins coffee?
Well, I say, I'll take some.
Surprising how many people are switching to Wilkins coffee.
Crime has been committed. These detectives have been assigned to the case. Their job, round up the suspects. And that's what you try to do when you play Mattel's new lie detector game. The exciting new game of scientific crime detection. It could be any one of 24 suspects. Question each one. Is he telling the truth? The lie detector says no. Now check the racketeer.
Well, I think it was a guy with a big jaw.
Now you have one clue. Next, try the school teacher.
I saw him. I'm sure he had a mustache.
True again. Now you know the criminal had a big jaw and a mustache. By eliminating the other suspects, you're ready to make an arrest. And there he is, the playboy. With skill Mattel and the lie detector, you become chief of detectives. Mattel's lie detector game is real fun. Get it wherever toys are sold. Remember, you can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Yes, it's never a good idea to drink and boat at the same time. And I did see Kabuki Kid and Death Angel Shadow had both at the same time said, let's all go to the lobby. I have mentioned previously, I've remastered that. I actually have it where if you take a look at any of the online videos you see for Let's All Go to the Lobby with the candy, marching and stuff, the drink marching, box of popcorn, it's out of sync. So I cleaned up the audio and synced it up correctly, used it once, and immediately got flagged for copyright. So that's why I never share it, because I know it will immediately get me a copyright flag, which means that whatever advertisements you may have seen or will see in this video, those half pennies are going to go to them, not me. So there is that. Anywho, if you were curious, if you watched last night's show, Stephen from Roll for Combat had popped into chat, and he was asking if I had gotten approved for my press passes for Gen Con. And before I get into the answer to that, I believe we had somebody else join us. Joe King is with us in chat. Welcome, Joe. I think this might be a first-time visit for Joe King. So be sure to make yourself comfortable. Anyway, I have not gotten my press credentials for Gen Con. I zeeted about it over on X. And the reality is, it's kind of ticking me off. Now, I don't mind that it's taken them a while to approve me. Although, strangely enough, usually I get my approval the next day. There have been times in the past where I sent in my press pass application and got my approval a couple hours later. So it's very strange to be waiting this long. It's been about a week. But the big deal is that if you do not have a pass by midnight tomorrow night, I thought it was noon. It turns out it's midnight. I took a peek. You will not be entered into the housing portal randomization in order to book rooms at the discounted rate. So I have not gotten it. I have not gotten my approval. At least I had not gotten it when I started the stream. Well, about 30 minutes before I started the show, I did take a peek to see if I had an email, which I did not, because I have actually reached out twice to the contact. Once a couple of days ago, and now earlier today, and I'm nice about it. I'm not like, what the hell's going on here? But I did mention in today's email that I have heard other press outlets have not received any word on theirs, on their approval either. So everybody's wondering, well, what's going on with the housing portal? Because as far as I understand, if you get your pass after midnight tomorrow night, well, I guess it would be midnight Saturday, right? You will automatically be placed at the end of the queue for the housing portal for the hotel rooms, which in that case, it's like, don't even bother. Do not even bother trying to book a room. unless you're looking at some place that's 25 minutes away. And if that's the case, why even bother? Just go on booking.com and look for deals there, because you're probably going to find places closer for less, which like last year, because I wasn't sure if anybody was going to go with. And luckily, my brother did come down for a couple of days to help me out. But more than half the time I was flying solo, which it's all right. I'm used to Indianapolis. I know so many people in the industry. I'm never like completely by myself all day. But I booked a room through the hotel portal. And then, because I had like a 5:30 time, so everything downtown or close by was long gone. And I just got some, just regular old motel. And then I went and took a peek, and there was a motel next to it that was actually higher rated as far as reviews, and it was cheaper. So I was like, well, hold on a second, because if you book through the housing portal, you have to pay a deposit. You have to pay one night. So I immediately went and canceled it, and I'll be damned if they didn't charge me $50. I was like, you sons of bitches, charging me $50 for having a reservation for 20 minutes. Death Angel Shetta says, oh, GaryCon is way up there in Wisconsin then, right? Yes, it is. In fact, I will be at Founders and Legends. I am going to be interviewing Luke Gygax and the gang from Troll Lord Games tomorrow. So we are going to talk about some more of the Gary Gygax content they're going to be bringing to Kickstarter. And I am going to try to do my best to keep that video to about 30 minutes, because the last time I did an interview, it really wasn't an interview. It was kind of like I'm just hanging out there while they talked. So Travis Williams says $50. That's a lot of, I assume, Diet Right soda. Oh, yes. Anthony Good's with us tonight. Good to see you, Anthony. So anyways, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on as far as Gen Con, but I had asked Elliot if he was interested in staying downtown, and he is open to it as long as, he's not paying $800. So I would probably have to pick up some of the cost, more than half, to convince him to do it. But man, I'm telling you, being able to just take that skywalk, because I guess Elliot probably wouldn't want me mentioning this, but I will. Elliot's one of these folks who needs a little nap in the afternoon for about an hour to keep the battery generating power. And it's far, far easier for him to do that when we're close by someplace. So it's like when we went to San Diego Comic-Con and we were staying over at the Embassy Suites finally, which was last year. And it was great. Because granted, yes, it was still a 20-minute walk to get back over to the hotel with all the crowds, but it was still pretty close by. Not like us walking back and forth to one hotel the year prior to that, where it was about an hour, 10 minutes, hour, 20 minutes walking it. And we were just like, screw it, well, I'll just walk it. Because I think it was like a little over 2 miles away, which when we booked the room, it said it was within a mile. So that turned out to not be the case. Chris Lundgren says they're willing to go to almost any game convention as long as they don't get the Will Wheaton dice curse. He mentioned his name at a Dungeon Crawl Classics game, and all their dice rolled horrible. I guess the curse is real. I didn't know anything about that, to be honest. Not a clue. Anyway, let's see what else we've got here. Kabuki Kid, per the Gary Con website, Gary Con 26, March 21st to 24th. Yes, it is sold out. So just so you know, it is sold out. It's been sold out for a while. Because I think they're cutting off at 1,500 passes. I think it's 1,500 attendees is what they're cutting off at. So we could have swung covering that for, for the gaming gang. We could have gone and covered that, even though it was sold out. We could have gotten passes from Luke Gygax, but just can't pull it off with the schedule. Elliot had problems. So we were like, all right, well, let's do Founders and Legends. And Luke Gygax was kind enough to provide us with a couple of passes. I'll be thanking him for that on tomorrow's video. Going to try to do some interviews there as well. I'm pretty sure Tim Kask is going to be there talking, doing a presentation. I'm going to look to see if I can possibly get an interview there. I am going to mention off the record, so you won't see it as part of the video when I post that with Luke Gygax and the Troll Lords. But I am going to mention to him that any of the luminaries for Founders and Legends, if they want to get in front of the camera and talk and that, we're all good. We're all for it. So there is that. Anthony Good says, Pathfinder for Savage Worlds Ultimate Core Box Set. Awesome. Yes, I did review it. I have reviewed it, liked it quite a lot. Unfortunately, I thought the included adventure was a letdown, but that kind of seems to be par for the course for Pinnacle Entertainment Group, that the introductory adventures that they include with some of these. Now, I will say Hollers is pretty good, but Hollers is actually long. A lot of times what they do is they just kind of toss out these like 5-6 page adventures, and they're just real meh. Yeah, actually, what was it for Savage Pathfinder? It was like the first chapter of now it's Crime of the Cobalt King for 2nd edition Pathfinder. But it was this opening like chapter of a campaign that's sort of Chris Lundgren asks if I have heard if Tunnels and Trolls is ever coming back. They've heard rumors, but nothing solid. Last I had heard was that it had been sold. So there is a new owner of Tunnels and Trolls. I don't know if they're a new owner for all things Flying Buffalo. They might be. It's very, very possible. So I know there had been discussion, this is probably within about 6 months ago, that there had been discussion that they wanted to release a new edition. But that's all I know. Tunnels and Trolls is an interesting design. I liked it. I reviewed it. I gotta say, I'm not sure how well it works for high-level play. Because you start getting to the point where you are chucking tons of 6-sided dice. Or you're making kind of changes to things where it's like, oh, okay, well, this die represents 10 dice or whatever to kind of speed up the process. And that tends to happen when you get into these higher level characters as you're chucking, no joke, I'm talking like 30 dice. So could even be more than that. But something I do like about Tunnels and Trolls is mechanically, it's actually pretty modern. And that's saying something for a game that really has not changed much since 1979. Because I think the original Tunnels and Trolls came out about 75, 76, but there were some tweaks. But I think overall, you are looking at about, I think 79, 80 was the last time that Tunnels and Trolls underwent any major changes mechanically. But there are some famous names in the world of fantasy role-playing games who have done adventures. Ken St. Andre, I mean, he has done loads and loads for Tunnels and Trolls. Monsters, which is kind of an offshoot of Tunnels and Trolls, where the player characters are monsters. I have never taken a peek at it, but sounds pretty interesting. And of course, he was, I think he was the lead designer for Tunnels and Trolls. So it also is a role-playing game that is pretty famous for its solitaire adventures, kind of a choose-your-own-adventure sort of motif to those. But unlike, say, choose-your-own-adventure, where, at least as far as I know, because I don't recall ever playing one. I have played, like, choose options sort of solitaire books, but I don't recall it specifically being a choose-your-own-adventure, which was the brand name. I don't recall you having like stat blocks for your character and hit points and things like that. I thought it was just, oh, you chose to do this? Well, this is what happens, right? Go to this page. The solitaire adventures for Tunnels and Trolls are not like that. They are similar where it's like, oh, you decide to do this, okay, blah, blah, blah. But you will still go through like combat just like you would in a multiplayer game of Tunnels and Trolls. Something else Tunnels and Trolls is pretty interesting regarding the way that players interact together in combat. It's kind of why it's like you're adding dice to other people's rolls and stuff like that. It's not necessarily I roll and do something, you roll and do something, then they roll and do something. There's a bit more of the team composition going on. Now, I will point out, it has been a few years since I took a peek inside Tunnels and Trolls, so I am not very well versed anymore with it mechanically. But what I'm saying, it still applies. I couldn't tell you like specifically, oh, well, this is what you're doing in combat, being able to add dice and things like that. Somebody just said, I love dice chucking games. Oh no, Chris Lundgren says that their wife, I saw the Jeff part, their wife loves dice chucking and Axis and Allies War at Sea miniatures. She gets brutal. I never had an opportunity to check that out. The minis looked all right. The minis looked kind of cool. But I am a naval war game fan, especially miniatures. Of course, I go back to the Fletcher Pratt's naval war game. So played loads and loads of that. Kabuki Kiss says, I like dice trays over dice towers. Yeah, see, dice towers to me just, I don't get it. And I'm not talking about Tom Vassell and his team. I'm talking about the actual dice towers. Yes, do they look kind of cool? Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of interesting looking. I could see somebody collecting them, like people collect dice, right? Utilizing them at the game table, to me, just is stupid. To me, it is. To me, it is stupid. If you have a choice between rolling in a box of some sort, and there are plenty of sets of dice that come in these storage boxes that the top is meant to be used as a dice tray. That I'm fine with. But this whole, I'm using a dice tower so that, I'm not cheating as I roll my dice. I don't know anybody that I have ever played a game with who could sit there and roll dice so that they came up what they wanted. And I actually had one of my nephew Cameron's friends who would take the dice and just drop them from about a foot above the table. That was how they rolled dice. And I know damn well he was not controlling the outcomes of those dice. Yeah, to me, I just think dice towers are just wasting time at the game table. This is my personal opinion. That's all. You will not see me utilizing a dice tower at a game table ever. You will see me use dice trays, but you will not see me use a dice tower. And the only reason why I use dice trays is so the dice don't go rolling off. So that's it. Matthew Constantine says, yeah, I got a couple of dice trays. I have quite a few, actually, because when 5e was, I shouldn't say 5e, when Wizards of the Coast was releasing sets of dice that kind of corresponded with various releases, they kind of got away from that. I haven't seen that in quite a while, but they would have released these sets and they would come with a box. So you would actually have 2 dice trays that came with it, the top and the bottom. Kid says, yeah, even Tom Vassell has commented he prefers a dice tray over a tower. Yeah, because you're just rolling dice. The whole premise of the dice tray was to make sure that the roll is really random. I don't know. I mean, is it that big a deal? I don't know. Once again, remember, I mentioned this week. In fact, wasn't it on yesterday's show, or maybe it was the show before? I'm one of these people where, as a game master, I don't really care too much about mechanics. Yes, there is a method to the madness at my game table. It's not like it's just like, oh, well, we're just going to create rules on the fly. No. But I don't let rules get in the way of a good time. I'm like that with dice, too. I'm not a dice collector. It's sort of like, yeah, those dice look all right. Those are kind of cool. I think Zaki dice, which Dungeon Crawl Classics utilizes, I think they're fine. But I also find them to be pretty wonky. And it's sort of like, and yes, I know you don't need to have Zaki dice in order to play Dungeon Crawl Classics. There are ways for you to simulate those dice. I get it. I understand. But a lot of times, some of those dice don't roll very well. Like the 30-sided die, the 24-sided die, they don't really roll that well. They just kind of roll too much. They don't like to come to a stop. Chris Lundgren asks, do I like using a Game Master screen? I normally do not. But as of late, I'd say in the last maybe 3 years, I have started to, simply because I normally have a physical book. I mentioned this before. I have a physical book, and I also have an iPad. Or on occasion, I have a couple of tablets. Actually, I have an old Samsung tablet, which I might use to share visual aids for the players. So I will share like an image of the NPCs or the map or what have you. Although usually maps and, stuff where they're kind of tracking, I tend to print those out. But I will use a Game Master screen so I can hide my book and my tablet and my dice tray. Sometimes I just leave the dice tray out. But what I used to do, and this is for decades, what I would do is I would use 2 chairs, one to sit in and one to have my dice tray, or box top was usually what it was. And I would also have like the core rule book for Call of Cthulhu sitting there in case I needed to refer to it for some specific reason, which I normally did not. But I did not use a Game Master screen. So it was just sitting on the chair. I'd roll dice on the chair. I mean, it was out of sight. So I am also famous for rolling dice for absolutely no reason. So I tend to do that a lot, especially in Call of Cthulhu, because my experienced players will sit there and be like, well, what the hell was that for? Why do you roll those dice? It's like, just for the hell of it. And I'll do stuff where it's like, I'll roll dice and I'll just I won't like make it real, like, super corny. But I'll roll and I'll kind of do one of those. Tighten my mouth a little bit. Yeah, so, thankfully my players really don't watch this stream. So Chris Lundgren says they like screens so they can slide their game notes and charts mostly. I do have some custom screens that you can kind of slide things into. I thought those were kind of cool, 4-panel. Thought those are all right. Kabuki Kid says, yeah, the D100 Zakihedron was just a novelty. Don't know anyone who actually used it while gaming. I don't have one. That is the one of the Zaki dice I do not have. So it's like, So Gerlin says, I sometimes enjoy giving a player a note which says something like, act like this is important, see what happens. Yes. Yep. I'm just saying hi. Don't act like it. That's one that I've used. I've used that a few times. I'm just saying hi. Don't act like it. Be like, oh, okay. All right. Matthew Constantine says, I used to love to play head games, roll dice for no reason, pass note, just says laugh, that kind of thing. I don't screw with people too much. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Keep them on their toes. Madman says they make those fake dice rolls too. I usually react to the rolls differently each time, so they're left wondering. The evil smile gets them every time, though. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you game master enough with a group, they begin to pick up your tells. They start picking them up. And yeah, do your best not provide them any while still, showing enthusiasm and having fun at the table. You're not a robot. So, anywho, thank you, everybody, for the various different role-playing game options that you're throwing out there, games that you would like to maybe play if you were sitting at the game table with me. By all means, share some more if you'd like on this video in the comments section, not in the chat because I'm getting ready to wrap up the show. But quite a few people had commented Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, that they'd be interested in that. See, I got to find something that is going to be that I can sell people on. And Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, for some people, they get scared off because they think it's associated with Warhammer 40K. And there are people who have heard just, and let's be honest, Warhammer 40K, that whole fascist empire was sort of meant as satire. It's not so much anymore. It's gotta take it a little more serious than they should, but I don't know. But there are people that I know who they have no interest in the Warhammer 40K universe, which is fine. I don't have an issue with that. But they think Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is tied into that, and obviously it is not. Daryl Arrett is with us. Good to see you, Daryl. I don't know, you may have been floating around for a while. Apologize if I have not said hello to anybody who's hanging out in chat tonight. Anyway, so there was that. Castles and Crusades. That is an idea. Now, I had someone comment about the Undying War, which is kind of being blocked off by the mic and that right behind me. And I have not started reading it yet for review because I've just got so much other stuff ahead of it. And they said that it is missing loads and loads of stat blocks for demons and monsters and stuff like that. So I have to take a look into that. But Castles and Crusades is another system that people said, hey, I'd be interested in checking that out because it's a D20 role-playing game, but it does have that old school mentality to it. So I am going to ask about this book tomorrow. It'll be off the record. So don't be expecting to see me calling somebody out in that video or, hey, well, what's going on with this? You guys are missing stat blocks for monsters. So anyway, so those are two that have kind of popped out. Traveler, that's another one. Mongoose Publishing is another company that I wish I had a better relationship with. I really don't have any relationship with them. I got the Traveler starter set. I reviewed it. I really liked it. That was the last time I ever heard from them. But you know what probably happens? Because I talk about this quite often because we see it all the time. Their marketing person probably left. And then somebody else came in to take over. And I know for a fact, a lot of these marketing people, they take their contact list with them, which I don't understand because I would think that's the property of the company that you were working for. But then again, things are weird nowadays. People don't act like adults at the workplace like they did, which I find very strange because, yes, looking back years and years ago when I first started working, yeah, there was some questionable stuff, right? Jokes that were made, people hitting on other people, stuff like that just would not fly at all today. But I'll tell you what, it seems to me a lot more work got done back then than it does now. And people actually took some pride in their jobs. And I get it. I tell people all the time, I would not have any sort of loyalty to a company because I know they have no loyalty to me. But I think in the gaming world, a little bit different because it's such a small community. But I think that's probably what happened is they had a marketing person, that marketing person left. And I have seen that with other companies where all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like, haven't seen anything in a long time. Cubicle 7 Games, prime example. They had a marketing person who sadly just wasn't doing the job. And then they didn't have anybody in marketing for a few months. And now they finally got somebody new who seems very nice. And remember, Sunday we'll kick off Cubicle 7 week at the Gaming Gang. Every day you will see a new first look at a Cubicle 7 Games release. So there is that. There is that. Kevin King says, how could an ex-GoDaddy employee say companies have no loyalty? I left GoDaddy before it became the utter mess it ended up. When I worked there, the founders still owned it. It was not publicly traded or anything like that. If you did your job when you were at GoDaddy, they treated you really well. They really did. Every day, they had a different restaurant come in, and they had supplemented meals. So it would be something that normally would be about $6, $7 if you went to, say, Boston Market. That was one of the companies that would come in. And it was $1. You paid $1. Didn't see many companies doing that. I won $5,000 at the Christmas party that they had. So I really didn't have any complaints about working with them. But yeah, it was funny because I knew some folks who worked for GoDaddy after I had left. And they were like, oh my God, it was awful. And they were telling me about it. And I'm like, man, they would have never flown when I was there, but it was because it got sold. Ended up getting sold to somebody else. So Daryl says they are not a Warhammer. They are a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay fan, not 40K. Kabuki Kid says they're angry at 40K for taking over the White Dwarf magazine in like 1987. Yeah, because White Dwarf was kind of everything. I mean, they covered D&D. They had Call of Cthulhu adventures, stuff like that in it. Because I used to pick it up. And then suddenly it just became a house organ, like you see with a lot of game magazines, especially back then. They just suddenly it was just a house organ for Games Workshop. All right. Anyway, Matthew Constantine says Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition's really good. Yeah, I agree. I like it quite a lot. Quite a lot. Matthew also says they've only worked for 2 companies that had anything resembling loyalty. One was for their brother. The other was a museum. Death Angel Shadow says they used GoDaddy way back when, and then 1-in-1, then Gator. My domain is still through GoDaddy as the registrar. I figured, yeah, why bother changing it? It's like all it is just my domain. That's it. Kabuki Kid says they loved White Dwarf for the first 10 years. Death Angel Shadow says they run their own VPS. Yeah, I pay for a semi-dedicated server. So, all righty. So that is it for this time out. Hopefully, when I see you on Tuesday, I will have more details on what's going on with Gen Con. I would hope. It's possible that they've just decided that press aren't going to have access to the housing portal. Like, that's a possibility. I don't know. So why would they be in any big hurry to approve people for press passes? And the reality is they can easily say no to the press pass. That's a possibility too. So I don't know. Although I've been covering Gen Con for years, I don't know. Matthew says they think Shadis may have been the only company-owned zine that never became a house organ. Well, you got to keep in mind, too, Shadis was owned by John Zinzer, who owns AEG. But I don't think AEG really had much out there when Shadis was around. I used to live not far from a newsstand. It was a store, but it was called the Newsstand. I don't even know if it's still around. And it was all magazines, newspapers, stuff like that. And that's where I used to go in on a monthly basis to go pick up the latest issue of Figure Modeler. Because remember, I used to paint 1/6 scale monsters and girl kits and things like that. And I also would pick up Shadis or Shadis, however you want to pronounce it. Harshit Rana just made a super chat. Thank you very much. I believe this might be a first-time visit as well. So, sweet. All right. Anyway, so like I said, hopefully y'all know something about Gen Con. I'm not going to get worked up about it. I try not to let anything get under my skin where I'm like really upset. I mean, I could see being ticked. I mean, I could easily be really ticked off because it's kind of messing with, are we going to cover it? Are we going to go? I mean, any chance for a downtown hotel room goes right out the window if you're not in the portal. But then again, if you're slated for 1:30 or later, staying downtown's kind of out the window anyway, too. So, all right. Anywho, if you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, you don't get an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel here on YouTube, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings. It'll also tell you when I share other videos, such as today's first look at Epic Encounters, Savannah of the Knoll Pack from Steam Forged Games. Yes, very nice. Pretty cool minis. Has 18 miniatures inside there, and they are pretty solid sculpts. They look pretty good. All righty then. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. As I mentioned, I'll be back on Tuesday. And in case you don't know who I am, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.